Hi, welcome back to Art and Soul. My name is Mike Severin. I'm so glad that you are allowing me to come into your home today. And today we're finishing up a painting that we started here a couple of weeks ago called Broken Buckets. And this is the painting that I did here a few weeks ago that we're using kind of as an outline for our painting with the bucket, the spilled apples. And in this case, I put in a little monarch butterfly there on the broken handle. But this is where we're at from our last week. And so today what we're gonna do is we're just gonna come in and kind of hit some of finish up the highlights, bring in some of the grass that's in the foreground. And we're gonna get this finished up so that we can start in on a new painting next week. So what we're gonna do is I'll jump in really quick into what we've got for our paints on the palette. I've got some alizarin crimson, some cad orange, a sap green, a cad yellow light, our titanium white. I brought in some phthalo green we might use in our grasses a little bit, and then our burnt sienna, and then a little bit of the Prussian blue, just in case we need that. So right off the bat, we're going to start out, I've got a little angle brush, and we're going to do some of the highlights on the apples themselves. And so we're going to take our orange here with a little bit of the alizarin crimson, and we're just going to mix up a little bit of that orangish red. And I'm mixing it right there with my brush on the palette. If you prefer to use a palette knife, you're more than welcome to do that. I just kind of do it that way and have for a long time and find it works best for me. So we'll get right in here, and our light source on this painting is coming from the upper right. So we're gonna take and just hit some highlights right on the tops of these apples where that sunlight might be hitting the most bright. And just taking and just hitting a few spots, not really doing a whole lot of covering. We don't want to cover up all that underpainting that we've worked so hard to get in place there. And just kind of follow the shape of what that apple would be. And we're just kind of just blend that down into what you've already got there. And there'll be some reflective light that would be maybe coming up from the bottom. We're not going to put a lot down on the bottom, but maybe just a little bit, just to tie it in a little bit. And if you notice, I haven't reloaded my brush. I'm still using the same load that I did when I first started, and I'm doing that so that there's less paint that's actually in the fibers. And as I get farther back into the bucket here, those colors are still going to be there, but they're not going to be quite as vivid and bright because it's going to be a little more shadowed back there inside of it. It looks pretty good like that. Maybe a little across there. You know, and you can take as much time as you'd like to highlight your apple that you're painting. Pretty happy with that. That looks pretty good. And so now we're going to take and just wipe out our brush real quick, and then we'll start on doing some of our highlights on the bucket itself. And so all I've done is just wipe my brush. I haven't actually cleaned it. So I'm grabbing some of the burnt sienna and some of our titanium white, just making up a light tan color there. And I just want to come in now and just hit some of the tops of the part of the bucket here. Might be getting some of that sunlight hitting it. And just doing basically a dry brush. Again, we're not wanting to cover up all of that underpainting that we've worked so hard to do in the last couple of weeks. And I'll reload and get a little bit more on the edge there, maybe even a little more on the white, just to hit right on the edge. go. That's better. Maybe even, I just wipe my brush off and I just want to take it maybe and just bring in just a little bit inside of the bucket here. Just, again, we're just dry brushing, not wanting at all to cover up what we've already worked so hard to put into place. And that looks pretty good there. And so now we're gonna, let's get some of the grasses in here that are more in the foreground. And there's several ways that you can do that. And I'm gonna actually use a couple of different ways, and that way you can see how I do it. I've got a little 1-inch brush here, and we're gonna go with our sap green to start with, and just grabbing some onto the brush, and some of our cad yellow, maybe a little more on the yellow side. It's pretty good right there. So I've got, you know, quite a bit of paint on the brush, and I'm just going to take, and I'm just hitting the canvas and pulling straight up. And I'm doing it in layers so that we're not eliminating that dark area that's in between. This gives the illusion of the depth that's there. And of course we'll bring it up over the apples because there will be grass that would be sticking up there. And same with down here. You know, you can make this as dark or as light as you would like. I want to make it so this looks like it's really illuminated nicely here. So I want it more towards the light side there, maybe a little darker back here. So I'm going to take again same mix, only this time maybe going a little more towards the darker, with the sap green. And we're just going to put in again. See, it's not quite dark enough, so we'll grab more of the sap. Maybe even just a hair bit of that Prussian blue in there. That'll darken it up. Yeah, that looks better. I'm just, like you said, you can see I can just taking and hitting the canvas and just pulling that brush straight up. Those bristles are just popping up, and that gives that illusion of the grass. That's a little too bright with the yellows right across there, so I want to take and just bring in a little bit more of that green that we were using there, not covering up all that yellow, but I want to just subdue that down a little bit more. Yeah, that's much better. Remember, our rule is that you have to have dark in order to have light, and so we don't want to cover up our dark areas because we need those in order to bring in our lights. So now what I'm doing is I'm grabbing my script brush, and this is something I want to take just a minute to work on to explain, because people have difficulty with this. The script brush is a very long bristled brush, very fine. I'm going to dip it into the paint thinner, and I'm going to come down here into this green that I've already been using, but I want to bring in some yellow into it. Want to get my shade right that we'll be using, and I want to add more paint thinner. I want this to be, and I've talked about it before, ink-like consistency. We don't want it runny like water, but we don't want it to have we want it very fluid. And so just roll it around on the brush, and if you just roll your brush, it makes a really fine point. And this is great for doing all sorts of different type of work, but I like it for these blades of grass. It really makes it look like the sun is hitting those blades, and they're quite lifelike, actually. And that was a little too green; it wasn't showing, so I just added some titanium white to it to get that a little lighter green. Yeah, see See how that just pops? It just makes it look like the sun is just really striking those leaves. Or blades of grass, I should say. Still a little bit on the dry side, so we'll keep adding in our paint thinner just to make sure that we get it the right consistency. And you're gonna hate me if you do it and you don't, if you don't get the consistency right, you're not gonna get the effects that you're wanting. So just take your time and work with it, and you'll get it figured out. It's one of those things that probably of any of the things that I do is probably takes more time to figure out and to get your own idea of what that consistency is down. As you can see, just kind of bringing in some of those blades of grass that are up here close, and we'll even bring up some from down below and make sure we go up across our apples. Just makes it look a lot more realistic. You know, you can make up little stories about your paintings. Almost every painting that I do has some sort of meaning behind it. This particular painting has a lot of significance to me. The handle being broken, which we'll put in here in a little bit, has some significance, and the little butterfly that's sitting on that handle, there's significance to that. You know, that little butterfly has decided to fly in the world, and he's free to go anywhere wants to go without any restrictions, no cocoon in sight, come into its own. It's now ready to fly into the great adventure of the world. You know, make up little stories. That's the fun part of this. You know, musicians, they write songs about their life and experiences. You know, for me and for most artists, you know, they do it to express that through their paintings. And like the painting you see here behind me, when they show the wide shots, the one that's on the easel back there of a couple dancing in the rain with an umbrella, brings back some precious memories for me of some. That painting is called Special Moments, and I think that's the fun part of this whole process, is just, you know, using your life's experience to paint and create things. That's, you know, we all need that. So much of our world is not very creative anymore. We have a tendency to kind of be stuck in our own little traps of society, and we don't have that creative outlet. And that's one of the things I want to really encourage with this show is, you know, to find that creative thing that works for you, and it just makes your life a lot more full and exciting, I think, to have that. As I was talking there, you probably watched, I just changed the variation of color for those blades of grass. Some of these would be a little darker, and in fact, I'm going to grab a little more of that sap green so we can get it a little darker, because I want some of those blades showing as well. You know, it's like trees. You know, anything you look at in nature, there's so many different colors that are involved. You know, everybody thinks a tree leaves are green. Well, there are some that are green, but depending on how the light's hitting it, might be more towards the yellows or even white at times you'll see. So just kind of, you need to vary the colors, just like the world's full of lots of different colors, and we want to incorporate that in. Makes your paintings more special, makes them look more realistic, and people appreciate them. And if by chance you want to be one of those people that makes a few dollars selling, these kind of paintings are the ones you like to do because they touch people. Of course, none of us want to make any money doing what we love. That's the one part that I love about my job, is that I can actually do that. And I feel very blessed and special to have that opportunity. And what I've done now is I'm going back to my to my big 1-inch brush. I'm going straight into sap green. And I want to take and darken this area down here at the bottom. I think it needs darkened, and I think we'll add a little more even blue, that Prussian into it, just to darken it up even more. Yeah, that's better. And I'm just taking and just pulling with the brush up. And what this does is a couple of things. It kind of makes this a little more, not distorted, but a little, it doesn't have the detail that you'll see in the rest of the painting. And I really want that because I want all of that focus to come into the center. I want that a little darker down there, so I'm going to add more of that Prussian blue with the sap green. And I'm pulling up some of those leaves, or those, I keep calling them leaves, blades of grass. Yeah, I'm liking that. That looks good. Now what we want to do is, I want to put, that broken handle on that bucket now. So I'm going to take my script brush and I'm just rinsing it out here and cleaning it out in the paint thinner. And this, we're going to take and just, I'll show you how I do this. Sometimes I use black, but most of the time I make it up myself. I found that black, if you do it yourself, is a lot more rich color. So I'm taking that alizarin crimson, that burnt sienna, and with that Prussian blue. And that is such a, you can't really tell it, but it is such a rich color. And I really like mixing my own blacks for that reason. And again, we're trying to get that ink-like consistency again, because it's going to be like a broken wire handle that's on there. So I've got my brush loaded up, and let's just say that, right about here. There's a hole in the side of the bucket, and there'll be one over here. And then our wire is going to be we'll bring it across here, and we'll just kind of bring it out. I'm just bending it around, making it like it's an old broken wire handle. It's been on this bucket for years. And it'll come right down across our apples. Maybe we'll make it look like the wire, it would have to be attached somehow, so we'll just make just some cross hatches across there like it's been twisted. Maybe a little piece of the wire that comes out off the side there. That looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. The problem with this wire here is it comes down, it kind of gets lost in with the apples. So what we'll do is, which we would have done anyway, but it'll take care of that when we highlight it. And I just rinsed my brush out in the paint thinner, cleaned it out real quick, just wiped off the brush. I didn't take a whole lot of time to clean it. And same thing, titanium white with a little bit of the paint thinner, just to thin that down, make it nice consistency and fluid. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take now and just where the sun would be hitting on that wire. And it wouldn't be, we're not going to hit every spot on it, but just want to hit a few just to give the indication of where that would be hitting. And coming across here, I want to make sure that we get this highlighted across these apples so that, there it goes. See, it distinguishes it now. You can see it, that's what it is, not just something that's got hooked up in the apples. And we want to put just maybe a little bit of a highlight there across the top, and some of these cross wires where it was tied up. Just a spot here and there. Again, if you're doing this at home, you've got the time to take and tweak this the way you like it, and I'm kind of just rushing through. It's the problem with the show, I just run out of time. Don't really have enough time to do it the way I would normally do it if I was in the studio. And just hit some of that white across the edge of the bucket for a little more of a highlight than what was there before. And because I have that paint thinner on the white, it sticks onto that paint that we already had put down. Remember, thin paint sticks to thick paint. So if you're having a problem getting the right coverage, and I'm working with oil paint, so I'm working wet on wet a lot, and all of this can be done with acrylic too. But what I was started to say there is that if you're using the oil, a lot of times you need to use the paint thinner to get it thinned down enough to where it'll actually stick on what you had already put down over that wet paint. And then I take my finger a lot of times just to blend it out, soften it a bit. It's looking pretty good there. I want to take and just maybe do a little bit of some white highlights that are just hitting splashes that are on the top of those apples, where just the candy, I like to call it, of the painting. So again, I'm just going into titanium white, and I'm going to thin that down just a little bit, not a whole lot, just so that it sticks, like I said, on that red that we put down. Now, we'll see what happens here, whether or not we can get by with this. Yeah, it worked good. Remember, if you go with red and white, you are going to end up with pink. And I don't want pink apples. So I'm just doing one quick swipe with the white and wiping my brush off in between each time, because if I would hit it again, I'd end up with this pink mud on there, and I don't want that. So I'm just going to take a quick little stroke, wipe, reload. And again, if you're doing this at home, you can take and spend a lot more time on this than what I'm doing. And it's one of those things that it just takes practice, and by doing it every day or as often as you can, you'll perfect it, and you'll see what you can get by with and what you can't. And if for some reason you mess up, it's no big deal. It's not the end of the world. Let it dry, and you just come back in and redo it. So there's not anything. It was a learning experience for you, and that's what this is all about, is learning the what works for you. And what works for me may not work for you, and that's okay. It's just finding that balance that works. And so I'm just, as you can see, I'm just hitting just a few little highlights where the sun is hitting the top of that. And that looks pretty good. Well, I think I want a little more up here on this very front apple. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. And I think with that, we're going to call that painting finished. And I hope you enjoyed doing this little broken bucket picture. Next week we'll start in on a new painting, and as always, it's always exciting to start a new one. I like finishing them up, but I like starting a new one too. You never know what to expect, and it's exciting. As always, I finish the show with a few words. Unfortunately, we had some really horrific things happen in our world since the last taping. The terrorists that attack in Paris. And our world is in such commotion, and there's so much hatred in this world right now. That story touched me really deeply. In fact, I couldn't even sleep that night after watching the news and the developments of what was happening. In fact, I got up in the middle of the night and painted an Eiffel Tower with the bleeding heart at the base of it. It was just a real emotional thing for me and moving. There's so much hatred and so much corruption and so much terror and fear in the world. Don't be a part of it. Spread love, spread joy, spread happiness. So many people in the world hurting, so many people in the world that are homeless right now, trying to find a place to call home. Just say a prayer for those people. Help those around you that are in need, that are hurting, that are around in your circles. Be aware of that. Spread joy, spread happiness, contentment. And if you will do that, by giving out to others, you will glean that back. We need more love and more support and encouragement and joy in our world. Pray for the world. Pray for those around you. Pray for that peace in your own life. Thank you for joining me. At the end of the show, there's contact information of my Facebook and my email. I'd love to hear comments and questions you might have, and anything that you would like to see me paint from now on in the show. So thank you again for letting me into your home today. Blessings to you, and as always, CJ, I love you.